It's before top of the hour 9. And when we opened the conversation, the show today, I asked a very, very important question. When was the last time you were at Oriental Plaza? What was that experience like? And what are some of your fondest memories of that very, very historic monument, I can call it that, here in Johannesburg? For generations now, Oriental Plaza has been more than just a shopping center. It has been a symbol of resilience. It has been a symbol of entrepreneurship and community. Attracting visitors from all across Johannesburg and beyond. It has stores from all across Africa and all across the world. But there's some very, very important and I think concerning turn of events that are unfolding. And this over urban decay, over crime, and just general deteriorating infrastructure and declining investment in some parts of Fordsburg. And they've raised some serious questions about the future of one of South Africa's most iconic trading destinations. Can Oriental Plaza adapt and survive in a rapidly changing urban environment, or is it becoming a victim of broader challenges facing Johannesburg's inner cities? Not a secret. We've seen other monumental, historic, parts of the city of Johannesburg just crumble right in front of everyone's eyes. And, my generation, our parents and grandparents would recount stories of how, for instance, Carlton Center used to look like back in its heydays, and how just generally Johannesburg used to look like back in its heydays. And you can just imagine. And one is scared to even think that Oriental Plaza could be facing a similar kind of future. And to help us unpack the issues that are affecting Oriental Plaza, we're joined by Rehana, Moosajee, founder and owner of the Barefoot Facilitator, who'll be giving us insight on why you and I need to be concerned over the life of Oriental Plaza and what it represents and ultimately what its future holds. Rehana, jazakallah so much for joining us. Welcome to News and Views. Really appreciate you giving us your time.
Shukran for having me, Celio. It's lovely to be at Salam Media again.
No, pleasure's all ours. I want to jump right into it. Salam Media has listeners from all across the country, all across the world. For some who might not know, Oriental Plaza, its history and its significant. Can you just give a bit of insight on that? Why is Oriental Plaza such an important part of Johannesburg's story?
So I loved your introduction to the segment around what are our personal memories of the space. And I think for those who may not have the context, Oriental Plaza is very much a part of South Africa's painful apartheid era, where people actually lived in fitas, which was a mixed use space. So in terms of kind of urban development, it was fascinating because people traded downstairs, then lived upstairs, often intergenerationally, multi-generationally, until, of course, the apartheid government decided that that was not tenable and people were forcibly then removed from fitas, which was a very vibrant mixed use space, mixed community space. Their residential areas were pushed further afield and then were offered the opportunity to trade quite close to Fitas from what is now the site of the Oriental Plaza. I think it's important to remember that different parts of the community actually responded differently at that time. There were people who dug their heels in. I think the best kind of emotive capture of this is in the movie Material, where you see two brothers who had taken diametrically opposed views on this forced removal and how to navigate it and how their fortunes unfold and how, in fact, families were torn asunder by this decision. But I think what's particularly interesting about the Oriental Plaza is that it is one of the only, as far as I know, shopping malls in the country that is sectionally title owned. So owners actually, the business belongs to them. They're not renting it from a large developer. And of course, as you've said, I mean, multiple generations. If you think of Rosina Teba's house on Foster Street, she does these delightful inputs on what it was like as a child whose parents had a curio shop. and how she would kind of put on these little African masks and run around, and just these beautiful memories that people have. And then, I mean, I have personally gone on over a period of time to take groups from Gordon Institute of Business Science, and so on and so forth, Standard Bank, really to parts of Fordsburg that are, historically have been quite unknown, that the plaza story is not really well known. And I think the big question is, what is the role of the Oriental Plaza in the current context, the surrounding environment? I've called some of my tours there spaces in flux, right? And how, in fact, do you respond to rapidly changing space use? Just before coming onto this interview, for example, I hopped onto the Oriental Plaza's website, and it almost feels like it too is a little bit stuck in time. And I think the Oriental Plaza has the possibility to actually become the anchor for reimagining Fordsburg and what's possible. And right now, I mean, obviously you have a body corporate, you have a management structure, you have generations of people who have now opted to rent out those stores rather than run them themselves. And that has changed the dynamic of the social fabric that used to keep the plaza together. But I think it really has the possibility to be the anchor for a reimagined Fordsburg. And really, what are people looking for? Safe spaces, clean spaces, spaces that are not cookie cutter, cut and paste, and every mall looks and feels the same. And I think the Oriental Plaza has enough that makes it so distinctive and has a rich social network that can reimagine and rethink what the space could be and how it kind of morphs in 2026 to what it might have been in 1976 or 86.
I want to come to the challenges that are, I think, at the heart of this conversation. When people are talking about the decline of Fordsburg, what are some of the biggest challenges they're referring to, and ultimately how do they spill over to Oriental Plaza and the effects and impacts thereof?
So I want to pause on this issue of the decline of Fordsburg. I mean, I personally love to walk Fordsburg. My favorite thing to do is actually just to park my car somewhere and actually walk Fordsburg, because Fordsburg is just, there's just so much more when you're doing it on foot than when you're driving through it. But I think, we really need to think through and as I've said, I mean, I think safety and whether that's real or perceived, I think the jury is out on, I'm not sure. I haven't looked at kind of crime stats for the area, but I think most people kind of assume that if you're going to Fordsburg, you're not going to feel safe. Similarly, I think issues now take the Oriental Plaza itself has got tons and tons of parking, right? But Fordsburg has definitely got a range of congestion issues, often through people kind of double parking in some of the main roads and so forth. So reimagining mobility in the Fordsburg area is another issue. Then I think there's the whole issue around the state of public environment, the state of how clean the spaces are, and what's possible in relation to what has happened in other areas where businesses have come together, decided that they wanted to supplement and augment the normal cleaning facilities that are provided by the municipality and have set themselves up to do that. I mean, there are also really interesting opportunities with things like the Social Employment Fund. So I think there's enough gravitas between the Oriental Plaza and some key organizations in the Fordsburg area that if they started to really come together and diagnose what are their biggest issues and then what are the solutions to those issues, because they absolutely are solutions. And I do believe that it is about creating a shared vision for what's possible there. Of course, I mean, I think more recently that there's actually been, some violent crime at the Oriental Plaza itself, but that's not unique. That's happened
Mm,
at a range of other malls. It's happened at Cresta. It's happened in Rosebank. It's happened in Sandton. So I think really the vision for what people believe is quality urban space and what we want quality urban space to look and feel like. And I think unfortunately it's layered with some of what we currently are experiencing as a country, that there's almost a perception amongst many South Africans that once areas are kind of dominated, if you wanted to say that, and the vast majority of people who live and trade there are no longer born South Africans, that automatically
mm,
those are no-go areas.
mm, mm,
And,
mm,
and and I
mm.
think, I mean, there's the work that Tanya Zak did, the book that she wrote called Chaos Precinct, which looked at the kind of Ethiopian quarter of the inner city, right?
Mm.
That the kind of money that's flowing through some of these spaces. I mean, the plaza's proximity to that bus facility, cross-border bus facility that's opposite the old Johannesburg Transport Department, makes it a very interesting option for a lot of cross-border traders. Now, of course, we are in a particular moment in time. A lot of this is particularly challenging right now, but I think it's about seeing beyond the immediate crisis, looking at location, looking at accessibility by all modes of transport, looking at cleanliness, and looking at bringing back some of the people who have this emotional connection to the space, but not only about looking back, it's also about reimagining and looking forward. So, does it remain a single-use trading space, or does it become a more multi-use space? Are you considering responding to kind of the need for well-located, affordable housing rental options at that property? Very complex, given that it is sectional title and it's not an individual property developer. But I think you really want to crowd in urban thinkers and activists and begin to reimagine what's possible there. And that, of course, requires a particular style of leadership from those who are currently making decisions about the Oriental Plaza.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned something quite important. The fact that we need to maybe start reimagining what these historic landmarks like Oriental Plaza can represent, in this new generation, in these current times. Is there a way to rethink Oriental Plaza in a way that it is of the 21st century, and young people also feel a similar kind of emotional connection to it as our parents and grandparents did? I'm not from Johannesburg originally, but I remember my grandfather, we're still in Limpopo, by the way, would bring blankets, during the winter time, and he would tell us, no, you got them at Oriental Plaza, and he used to work here in Joburg. Is there a way to instill that kind of connection? Maybe if those kind of stories are told, that this, you might not know, but it has impacted your life in such and such a way. Your parents' first business was here, or your grandparents' first business was here when they moved to Johannesburg. Can we instill that in the younger generation?
So, Sialelo, I think it'll be really interesting. And I mean, maybe it's even a challenge to sell our media, right?
Yeah.
About how do we. So, I'm actually leaving later today to facilitate a session for the Alan and Joe Gray Philanthropy Foundation of South Africa that is specifically focused on entrepreneurship ecosystem building. Right. And I think what's fascinating about this now let's just think we have a so-called job, not so-called, we have a jobs crisis for sure. And for a lot of people are saying, well, actually the answer lies in supporting and building small businesses. But what this work that the Alan and Joel Gray Philanthropy Foundation are talking about is that it's not just you as an individual entrepreneur, it's an entrepreneurship ecosystem. And so imagine if the plaza kind of thought about partnering with a whole range of organizations that are particularly interested in issues of entrepreneurship and the building of small, micro, and medium enterprises. And then we bring back. So I absolutely agree that intergenerational conversation is critical, but not with a view to romanticizing the past, but really with a view to what does it take? I mean, take the current discourse about we just push foreign nationals out of their stores and take over those stores, right? How many people actually realize what it takes to run a small business? Many of those people who moved into the plaza have phenomenal wisdom to share about what are the things. I mean, I can tell you that one of my first jobs, I was a young kid, primary school, high school, Saturday mornings, kind of my uncles had a store in the plaza. I used to go and help earn a bit of pocket money. Later, my dad owned a store. Even though I was a professional, I continued to assist there. And some of the lessons one learns about customer service, about human relationships in business, about entrepreneurship and the importance of entrepreneurship and conscious entrepreneurship as part of building a balanced and stable society. Entrepreneurship that comes with a particular value system that is not only extractivist. I mean, I take, my own dad, who, unlike many other shop owners in the plaza, used to open his store a lot earlier than most. And he would then service a lot of the people who worked at other stores in the plaza and give them accounts, allow them to buy on account until payday, where they could actually pay this money off. I remember being at my dad's store, and on a Christmas Eve, a car guard from the plaza who, through December, had saved his money and came with like coins upon coins to buy this dress for Christmas for his daughter, right? Those moments touch you in ways that they stay with you for life. So, I think there really is an opportunity. The plaza was serious. There really is an opportunity to bring together urban designers, thinkers, previous kind of stalwarts of the plaza, many of whom are still there. Somebody like Uncle Chad Garda, who has written a book, who has, been in the plaza since its inception till now, whose children have grown up in that store. So there's no shortage of a social network around the plaza. But then the question is, how do we listen in to young people around what could this become? And I don't think that clarity, that reimagining exercise is not something that any one of us individually has an answer to. But when we pull a collective together and we listen deeply to young people and we think about, what can this become for next generations, I think that's where the magic potentially could happen.
No, most definitely. We have unfortunately run out of time, Rehana. I think we can talk, for the next hour about Oriental Plaza and about Fordsburg. But I really, really appreciate you giving us your time and giving us, I think, a bit more context into what we thought was a reality. And I think most importantly, that reimagination that you speak of. Hope we chat again. Really appreciate your time and a really wonderful conversation.
Thank you. The challenge is still on for Salam Media. I think we can cook something up together.
Hit us up. I think you have Nasreen's contact number, our producer. Let's see what plans you have, and hopefully we'll be a part of it. I think Oriental Plaza is very, very important. I think most of our listeners is a place that they hold dear to their hearts, and we would be involved for sure.
Plus, you can still get a bargain and haggle there, which doesn't happen in most other places.
Inshallah.
Shukran.
And owner of the Barefoot Facilitator there. Thank you for joining us and for sharing, I think, those wonderful insights on the challenges and I think most importantly, opportunities facing Oriental Plaza, just the broader Fordsburg community. I asked the question. I think you can continue to engage with us. Send us a WhatsApp voice note, a message 0617660355. What are some of your most fondest memories of Oriental Plaza? What do you hold dear to your heart when you think of that place. I know it's very, very historic. A lot of South Africans, especially generations and generations that came before us, the younger generations, it's a place that holds quite a significance. Within various communities, very, very diverse communities have stories about Oriental Plaza and moments that they can attach their lives to. So I want to hear those stories. Send us a message or voice note on 0617660355. Going to take a quick break. We'll be back with you after this.